Hey guys, I'm Kate Max. You might know me from my popular online series, The Running Interview Show, where I run with celebrities, athletes, entrepreneurs, and more. After those runs, the conversations keep going. That's what my podcast, Post Run High, is all about. It's a chance to sit down with my guests and dive even deeper into their stories, their journeys, and the thoughts that arise once we've hit the pavement together. Listen to Post Run High on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The 2025 iHeart Podcast Awards are coming. This is the chance to nominate your podcast for the industry's biggest award. Submit your podcast for nomination now at iHeart.com/podcast awards. But hurry, submissions close on December 8th. Hey, you've been doing all that talking. It's time to get rewarded for it. Submit your podcast today at iHeart.com/podcast awards. That's iHeart.com/podcast awards.
Hey everyone, this is Courtney Thorne-Smith, Laura Layton,
and Daphne Zuniga.
On July 8th, 1992, apartment buildings with pools were never quite the same as Melrose Place was introduced to the world.
We are going to be reliving every hookup, every scandal, and every single wig removal together.
So listen to Still the Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, I'm Dani Shapiro, host of the hit podcast Family Secrets. How would you feel if when you met your biological father for the first time, he didn't even say hello? And what if your past itself was a secret and the time had suddenly come to share that past with your child? These are just a few of the powerful and profound questions we'll be asking on our 11th season of Family Secrets. Listen to season 11 of Family Secrets on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Marie.
And I'm Sydney. And we're Mess.
Well, not a mess, but on our podcast called Mess, we celebrate all things messy.
But the gag is, not everything is a mess. Sometimes it's just living.
Yeah, things like J-Lo on her third divorce.
Living. Girls' trip to Miami. Mess.
Breaking up with your girlfriend while on Instagram Live.
Living.
It's kind of mess.
Yeah. Well, you get it.
Got it?
Live, love, mess. Listen to Mess with Sydney Washington and Marie Faustin on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Episode 465, What to Budget For This Winter.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And
it's cold outside.
Baby, it is. But not here in Florida. No. It's fine. It's
We're
pretty
fine.
temperate.
It's hot. I'm going to the beach later.
But for most of the people in our listening audience, there will be a change in how you spend and what you spend on in this season. And so we're going to remind you of some of those things and also share with you some data that might make you feel better about where your spending is headed.
I like that. Nothing super new here. We're just kind of utilizing this episode to be your little PSA, reminder women.
An encouragement.
Remember, these bills are coming up. Are you ready? You've got time to prepare now.
Yes.
So here we go.
But first, this episode is brought to you by Spring, the next season on the calendar. And if you want to be ready for our What to Budget For This Spring episode, you're going to want to start saving. And you should start saving in a high-yield savings account, preferably at CIT. They've got a really great APY, and you can open an account there, frugalfriendspodcast.com/CIT. Be ready for whatever springs on you.
Yeah, because you can make
spring break.
You can make your money grow in a high yield savings account. By spring, you could have an extra few $100s.
If you keep your emergency fund in a high yield savings account, it can pay for your manicure and or pedicure every month. You could get a pedicure every month with the money you make just from keeping your emergency fund in a high yield savings account.
Extra, just extra cash.
There you go.
I love it so much.
All right. So winter, we try to do a winter episode every year, sometimes more. Last year we did frugal living tips for winter. That was episode 264. We do our frugal holiday episodes. We got episode 456, how to have a frugal holiday. That was very recent. And so this one, we're talking specifically about your budget. We also have our budget toolkits every month. The last Friday of every month, we send all of our Friendletter subscribers a budget toolkit for the next month. So you will have just seen some of this stuff in the budget toolkit we sent out on Black Friday. But we're here to expand on some of it. If you don't get the Friendletter, you didn't see it, frugalfriendspodcast.com, a pop-up. Whenever you move your cursor away from the screen or stay there long enough on your phone, a pop-up will come up and it will ask you to join. Mm-hmm. So it's free. But so today we are going to start with a fascinating study, as Jill puts it.
So this one comes from Spectrum News. It's titled, "Expect to Spend More When It's Cold Outside." And this is based on a study that was conducted by marketing professors at the University of Oxford and the City University of New York, looking at cold temperatures as being a contributing factor to our spending. Wild setup. I don't even know how they came up with this setup, but here's what they did. They ran an experiment with 112 students, and they were asked to hold a cup in their non-dominant hand that contained water at either an uncomfortably warm or an uncomfortably cold temperature. And while in that hot or cold condition, they were presented with a hypothetical situation where they were asked whether or not they wanted to purchase insurance for an antique clock.
So bizarre.
Now they still separated these groups even more. Half of the students were read a strongly sentimental description for the clock, and the others were read something really objective without sentiment about the clock and asked, would you want to purchase insurance for this clock? Here's what they found. The students were willing to pay significantly more for the clock's insurance after reading the highly sentimental description of the clock, but only when they were in the cold condition. When in the warm condition, holding something uncomfortably warm in their non-dominant hand, the description of the clock made no significant difference on how much they said they would pay. So that's why I called this a fascinating study, because I think even the minds of the people who came up with this study is fascinating. Like, how did you even think about this specific scenario? But ultimately finding that we will make possibly spending decisions when we are feeling cold that are different from how we might choose if we are not cold. And so just that is why the
Frugal Friends live in Florida.
That's why we live in Florida, honest to goodness. Yeah. And I'm sure we could just probably conjecture around the rest of it why that might be, whether it's discomfort, or we know that buying releases dopamine. We know that cold, dark settings can often make a lot of us feel a little bit more down than what we typically feel throughout the year. And shopping and buying and doing something that's going to release that dopamine could increase this time of year. Ultimately, I think it's just something important to keep in mind that my spending decisions might shift depending on the season, apart from the pressures of spending that can happen, just how I respond to the various contexts that I'm in, the temperature, the darkness that's happening outside. I think knowing ourselves and how we experience those these different environments throughout the year, how it affects our spending. So that could include looking back on your spending last year, doing a transaction inventory for last winter. Is there any surprising purchases that you see that possibly were just because of the season? And how can that inform you this year?
Yeah, I think hopefully it gives you a little empathy for yourself, because we go through these seasons where we're like, oh, I'm doing really well. And then we enter a new, literally, weather season and we fall off, of this progress, and we feel like it's us. When in reality, there are a lot of factors that contribute to our performance. And so the only thing we can really do is focus on our actions. And in seasons, we may take more actions that get us further faster. And in some seasons, we will not be able to take as many of those actions, but your actions are really the only thing that you can control. And you have to give yourself grace in the psychology of cold and darkness. Obviously not an excuse, but
reasoning, informative.
Right. So let's look at some of these things that we are going to have to do to prepare our finances for cold weather. And this is from Harvard Federal Credit Union. We love a credit union.
So, of course, expect heating bills, especially if you live in the north. You all know your heating bills are going to increase. This isn't new knowledge, but I do think these types of expenses can creep up on us every year, especially because we're still recovering from the holidays as we move through January, February, March. And so having our sights on this kind of early December can really help us to be aware and maybe even inform some of how we spend throughout the holidays, knowing the rest of the winter is still ahead.
Yeah. Alternatively, if you're in the South, your heating bills might be less. This might be an optimal time for you and your energy costs. So I would compare your 12-month energy costs. And if you're not going to do budget billing, which I don't necessarily like, but can decide if it's going to be most helpful for you, maybe that's something you switch to at this time right now, or use the money that you are saving, especially January, February after the holidays, and use that surplus to pay down some extra debt, pay off a credit card, or to put extra in your savings at frugalfriendspodcast.com/CIT.
Yes. If this is historically a more expensive time for you, if you do know energy costs are going to increase, even just because we're at home more often and so we're utilizing all of our utilities, definitely check with your energy provider, your electric provider, to see if they're offering any incentives or doing any energy audits. We had that done by our electric company, and they actually sent us some really helpful stuff in the mail for free to help us on all sorts of energy costs, like help with sealing up windows, help with not using as much water, some things to kind of disperse the water a little bit more that you can put onto your faucet. So they'll do these things. I had no idea. I'm like, I'll give it a try. It'll probably be gimmicky. Who knows? But they actually sent us some really helpful things for free that we then didn't have to buy. And beyond that, really sealing up as many air leaks as possible. I think this goes for both people in the north as well as the south. Just when heat or cold can exit your home, it's going to raise prices on your electric bill or your heating bill, however you are, heating and cooling your home. And this is something I've learned from Eric over the years. I mean, he's worked in construction for a long time, really highlighting how important it is to have sealed windows and doors. And I'm just kind of like, how much is one little crack gonna, and it really does impact the temperature of a room. I mean, we got to experience that firsthand living in the RV, how much it can shift just having these minor, cracks open. So how much more so in an entire home? So taking the efforts to do some caulking, to maybe do some of the plastic over your windows, to do some weather stripping around your doors, these efforts could cost, less than $100 or be given to you for free by your energy company and potentially lead to some savings.
Yeah, you just put like a screen, like a plastic over your windows in our recording room as in an effort to lower the temperature when the sun comes in.
Yeah, it helps to filter the sunlight. So it's still like I can still see the sun and still see through the window. It just darkened it a bit, and it has helped so much in being able to keep this place cool while not needing to have big, thick curtains over the windows.
Right. Yeah. And it makes it so you can't see inside the windows.
Yeah.
So it's also a safety thing.
Which stinks for you, since you just admitted recently that you like to peep on people's Christmas lights inside their house.
But those are the people who put their Christmas tree in front of the window.
They want you to see it.
They want me to peep.
So true.
Yeah, you don't want me to peep. Next is winter preparation, everything from clothing, household prep, vehicle prep. And so and possible increased medical bills. So I would say first is that when we are looking at clothing, we are looking at secondhand. Winter clothing is the best type of clothing to buy secondhand because coats are not worn that often in a lot of places. That's why they end up on these secondhand sites. Sure, there are places where coats are run into the ground. You're obviously not going to see those on Poshmark, ThredUp. And so this is where I would say buy your very quality coats and everyday jackets from a place like Poshmark or eBay. I see a lot of the same item literally from the same seller is posted to both Poshmark and eBay, and you can it's cheaper on eBay. So look at these things. We use Beni, Beni, as it's a Chrome extension, and it can help you if you're looking at what's a very good coat brand.
Patagonia.
Maybe. So you're on the Patagonia website. You want the puffer jacket. It can pop up and show you that same exact puffer jacket on a variety of secondhand sites. Honestly, most of the time it's Poshmark because that one's just the biggest. But so prepare now to get these things because it may take you a few weeks to find the type of coat or any clothing, ski stuff. Like it's great. If you want to take a ski vacation or something, awesome. Don't wait to the last minute to where you're buying all of your kids' new ski clothes new because they've all grown out of last year's. Look at the consignment stores, the resale stores, and places like Poshmark. And then you've got your vehicle prep if you need it. And then again, possibly increased medical bills because kids are sick. Get investing maybe in a nebulizer. Then you can, if you buy one of those yourself, it's much cheaper than getting it from the doctor, I have learned. And shopping around. If your child needs something like tubes in their ears, it's a very in and out procedure. Don't wait until they need it because of all the ear infections and sicknesses. Do your research on what the cheapest option is before they need it, because I made that huge mistake this year and it cost me a lot of money just because I was panicky and I wasn't prepared.
Along the vehicle lines, I will say, again, this is especially for our northern friends, recommend, checking your tire pressure, your battery, your brakes. If those things need to be updated now, that can really help with just safety and eliminating the potential costs of what having low pressure, a flat tire, a battery that doesn't work for you and you're needing to get home from work, there's extra costs that could be incurred. So check those things now. And there's also things that you can do to winterize your vehicle, from wipers to possibly getting winter tires, or maybe even rotating your tires. There are things that you can do that are lower cost to be able to prep your vehicle that could potentially save you more.
Hey guys, I'm Kate Max. You might know me from my popular online series, The Running Interview Show, where I run with celebrities, athletes, entrepreneurs, and more. After those runs, the conversations keep going. That's what my podcast, Post Run High, is all about. It's a chance to sit down with my guests and dive even deeper into their stories, their journeys, and the thoughts that arise once we've hit the pavement together. You know that rush of endorphins you feel after a great workout? Well, that's when the real magic happens. So if you love hearing real, inspiring stories from the people you know, follow, and admire, join me every week for Post Run High. It's where we take the conversation beyond the run and get into the heart of it all. It's lighthearted, pretty crazy, and very fun. Listen to Post Run High on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Jenny Garth, Jana Kramer, Amy Robach, and TJ Holmes bring you I Do Part 2, a one-of-a-kind experiment in podcasting to help you find love again. If you didn't get it right the first time, it's time to try again as they guide you through this podcast experiment in dating.
Hey, I'm Jana Kramer. As they say, those that cannot do, teach. Actually, I think I finally got it right, so take the failures I've had the second or even third or whatever, maybe the fourth time around.
I'm Jenny Garth. 29 years ago, Kelly Taylor said these words, "I choose me." She made her choice. She chose herself. When it comes to love, choose you first.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Robach.
And I'm TJ Holmes, and we are, well, not necessarily relationship experts. If you're ready to dive back into the dating pool and find lasting love, finally, we want to help.
Listen to I Do Part 2 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey everyone, this is Courtney Thorne-Smith,
Laura Layton,
and Daphne Zuniga.
On July 8th, 1992, apartment buildings with pools were never quite the same as Melrose Place was introduced to the world. It took drama and mayhem to an entirely new level.
We are going to be reliving every hookup, every scandal, every backstab, blackmail, and explosion, and every single wig removal together.
Secrets are revealed as we rewatch every moment with you.
Special guests from back in the day will be dropping by. You know who they are. Sydney, Allison, and Joe are back together on Still the Place with a trip down memory lane and back to Melrose Place. So listen to Still the Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The 2025 iHeart Podcast Awards are coming. This is the chance to nominate your podcast for the industry's biggest award. Submit your podcast for nomination now at iHeart.com/podcast awards. But hurry, submissions close on December 8th. Hey, you've been doing all that talking. It's time to get rewarded for it. Submit your podcast today at iHeart.com/podcast awards. That's iHeart.com/podcast awards.
Hi, I'm Danny Shapiro, host of the hit podcast, Family Secrets. How would you feel if when you met your biological father for the first time, he didn't even say hello? And how would you feel if your doctor advised you to keep your life-altering medical procedure a secret from everyone? And what if your past itself was a secret and the time had suddenly come to share that past with your child? These are just a few of the powerful and profound questions we'll be asking on our 11th season of Family Secrets. Some of you have been with us since season 1, and others are just tuning in. Whatever the case, and wherever you are, thank you for being part of our Family Secrets family, where every week we explore the secrets that are kept from us, the secrets we keep from others, and the secrets we keep from ourselves. Listen to season 11 of Family Secrets on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In the long run. The next thing on this list that I will point out is grocery budgeting. This was really interesting. They cited the research and stats on spending on groceries, on at-home food through the winter, that food expenditures tend to rise in the winter months, specifically on eating at home, which is interesting. I mean, good on us. I think
nobody wants to leave the house
in part because it's cold and dark. And so we don't want to go out. So we are eating at home, but that does mean that we're then spending more money on groceries. And I think if we're not aware of that shift that happens, we could find ourselves still spending the same amount that we typically do on ordering out or going out, and increasing our grocery budget and possibly food waste. So I think even planning for, how do I want to be eating in this season? Are there seasonal shifts that I want to make to the ways that I'm purchasing food, and whether or not I'm eating out, how often I'm eating out? Even if we do have a typical routine of when we allow ourselves to go get food out, that could shift. We could decide, you know what? No, I think this winter I'd rather do more potlucks with friends, or big bowls of soup or chili with the family. I don't need to have my typical, weekend out. I'm finding ways that I want to be at home more and just kind of adjust in that way. But recognize that food spending goes up. Maybe some of that is just for comfort, whatever it is. Be planning for whatever your food budget's going to look like, because we know it's one of the big three: food, transportation, housing. And so if you're not making a housing or transportation decision this winter, definitely be looking at what the food's going to look like.
Yeah, something I had not thought about until we were looking at this outline is that January is such a big month for people to start eating healthy, right? So like Whole30 and all these healthy eating plans. And it is the hardest month, it's the hardest season to find fresh food. Fresh food is like a lot of this stuff, the salads and stuff, are summer foods, and the winter is comfort foods. So be careful. If January is a time where you want to maybe like refine your eating habits, know that refine it in a way that's more in line with the season. So you can, get healthy soups and stews, obviously, but stay away from things that are just going to set you up to fail, with the salads and like fresh fruit stuff. They're also going to be more expensive in this season. So just don't set yourself up to fail if you do plan to change some things about your eating. And really make it a goal to minimize food waste. That's going to be the biggest way that you make it through. And prioritize easy meals, because it can be if we're not going out to restaurants, then DoorDash, Uber Eats can be the next alternative. And so delete the apps from your phone, increase the barrier to entry, and then just have these staples that you will turn to in these cases where you don't want to cook. So like the spaghettis or the jarred soups or something. Figure out what is a safe, easy meal for you, freezer meals, whatever, so that you choose to eat at home versus re-downloading the takeout app.
Yeah, because this can also be a really good time that we can enter into new rhythms and habits. We can habit stack. We can find replacement activities. This would be also a great time to jumpstart some of that meal planning, meal prep that can happen this time of year too, which will help our budgets. There's not really a ton of other things that I think come up in the winter. I think this is really just a call to know what your winter typically looks like. Again, look back at what last year was to kind of know what to be preparing for. And just know that thinking and planning ahead is one of the best things that we can do for our finances, getting into that rhythm and setting aside the money when we can. I think it's easy to look back and say, oh, I wish that I had put money aside for XYZ. And while maybe you hadn't done that up until this point, but you can start now for the next season. We love to talk about what's one thing I can do now that will make other future things easier or unnecessary. And saving, putting money aside is one of those things. And so even if you want to go above and beyond, start thinking about the summer and your travel plans. I think we talked about this in a recent friend letter, that part of our winter planning can be, what vacations do I want to take in the summer? This is an excellent way to be kind to our future selves, is to start thinking, what will I want to be doing? And how can I start planning out my budget and my spending on my savings, so to speak, to be ready to be able to take the vacation that we want to take, or do the travel that we want to do, or the activities that we enjoy doing, and not feel so stressed and strained in the summer. Kind of, I think part of our what to spend in any given season should always include thinking about the next season. I know you joked about that with CIT, but it is true. Like, part of winter spending should be spending on putting money towards savings.
Yeah, you might, and it might not, like for spring break, you might need to be saving for a spring break camp. Or like maybe that's when you're going to take your vacation versus summer. Or maybe you do want to put your kid in a summer camp. That's a big expense. So maybe you start saving now for that, and you're just staying home for spring break. You figure out what the next 6 months looks like. Don't necessarily plan beyond that, because I think things change. Sometimes we plan too far in ahead and then we get disappointed because things always change. But look at the next 6 months and figure out what you need to start saving based on what you spent last year, and just kind of look at the things you had to buy last minute. Look at the things you bought that were last minute and say, how can I avoid that, or at least refine to feel better about it next year.
And truly, a high yield savings account can really, like, I'm truly not trying to like sound like a commercial here. It truly is a tip. It can catapult our savings efforts in that way. Like, whatever money you already have set aside for an emergency fund, if that's sitting in a high yield savings account, you're earning money on that. I mean, something around 4% APY, which is excellent. So again, frugalfriendspodcast.com/CIT, if you don't already have one, is a great option to help, like I said, catapult that savings. Do you know what else catapults us? Just
through the holidays, through the winter,
through
it
the
gets
roof.
me through, warms my heart.
The bill of the week.
Right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the bill of the week.
Hi, Jen and Jill, and hey, Goldie. My name is Liz, and my bill of the week is a medical bill that I did not pay. I had to have emergency surgery a couple of months ago, and when the bills started coming in, the anesthesiology bill was really high. I had just listened to your episode on medical overbilling, so I Googled the codes. They were the wrong codes, and the going rate for anesthesiology. What should have been less than $1,000 total was billed to my insurance company at almost $7,000, and the remainder billed to me was $997. I called the anesthesiology company and they asked what I thought it should have been, which seemed like a really strange question. I told them what I found in my research, and I put the bill on hold until it was reviewed. I just logged in to check the balance on my account. $0. So thank you to you beautiful Frugal friends for saving me almost $1,000. If you're ever in the DC area, I'll buy you both some Margs and Chippies. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Oh, we might
Marks
have
and
to go
Chippies.
out for just Marks and Chippies. Oh my
Liz, there's so many things I want to say about this. First of all, thanks for the shout out to us and Goldie. How special. And thank you for sharing about this medical bill. I hope that you are okay. That's a very scary thing to have to go through an emergency surgery. You know, oftentimes when we know a surgery is coming, we can do some of this research on the front end, be able to pay for some things ahead of time and it not cost as much. But you don't have that luxury when it's an emergency surgery and then you're just finding out what all you've been billed. But good on you that you had the energy to go through and look at each of these bills, get the CPT codes. That's something that we talked about in our interview with Dr. Virgie Ellington. I forget what episode number that is, but we can link it in the show notes. She was so helpful. It is actually an earmarked episode for me to go back to whenever I have some questions on medical bills. But that was one of her biggest tips, was to go back through. And if it's not given to you, to ask the billing department for an itemized list of charges with the CPT codes connected to them, and then be able to research what does that hospital charge for those CPT codes. Transparent billing is required by hospitals. So they do need to have their pricing listed for common procedures. So you should be able to find that on the hospital's website. And again, well done. $7,000 billed should have been less than $1,000. You did your research, you pushed back, and it came to zero. And well done. And we'd love to come celebrate in DC for some chippies.
You know what? I think we're going to replay our most popular episodes from like 2 years prior. And the Dr. Virgie was 2 years ago. And so I think on our next rerun, we will replay her episode.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Because it is one that just, it never gets old. It is still important. And I think everyone should hear it.
So that was episode 230. So you can search for that.
Search for it in our archives on our website, or you can just search Frugal Friends, Dr. Virgie Bright Ellington.
Yeah.
And it'll come up.
Well done, Liz. Thanks for calling in. If you all listening have a bill that you want to share, if it's about a bill that you didn't have to pay, if it's about putting your brilliant mind to work, doing the research and lowering a bill, if it's about chippies and margs, if your name is Bill, frugalfriendspodcast.com/Bill. Leave it for us.
Hey guys, I'm Kate Max. You might know me from my popular online series, The Running Interview Show, where I run with celebrities, athletes, entrepreneurs, and more. After those runs, the conversations keep going. That's what my podcast, Post Run High, is all about. It's a chance to sit down with my guests and dive even deeper into their stories, their journeys, and the thoughts that arise once we've hit the pavement together. You know that rush of endorphins you feel after a great workout? Well, that's when the real magic happens. So if you love hearing real, inspiring stories from the people you know, follow, and admire, join me every week for Post Run High. It's where we take the conversation beyond the run and get into the heart of it all. It's lighthearted, pretty crazy, and very fun. Listen to Post Run High on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Jenny Garth, Jana Kramer, Amy Robach, and TJ Holmes bring you I Do Part 2, a one-of-a-kind experiment in podcasting to help you find love again. If you didn't get it right the first time, it's time to try again as they guide you through this podcast experiment in dating.
Hey, I'm Jana Kramer. As they say, those that cannot do, teach. Actually, I think I finally got it right, so take the failures I've had the second or even third or whatever, maybe the fourth time around.
I'm Jenny Garth. 29 years ago, Kelly Taylor said these words, I choose me. She made her choice. She chose herself. When it comes to love, choose you first.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Robach.
And I'm TJ Holmes, and we are, well, not necessarily relationship experts. If you're ready to dive back into the dating pool and find lasting love, Finally, we want to help.
Listen to I Do Part 2 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The 2025 iHeart Podcast Awards are coming. This is the chance to nominate your podcast for the industry's biggest award. Submit your podcast for nomination now at iHeart.com/podcast awards. But hurry, submissions close on December 8th. Hey, you've been doing all that talking. It's time to get rewarded for it. Submit your podcast today at iHeart.com/podcast awards. That's iHeart.com/podcast awards.
Hey everyone, this is Courtney Thorne-Smith,
Laura Layton,
and Daphne Zuniga.
On July 8th, 1992, apartment buildings with pools were never quite the same as Melrose Place was introduced to the world. It took drama and mayhem to an entirely new level.
We are going to be reliving every hookup, every scandal, every backstab, blackmail, and explosion, and every single wig removal together.
Secrets are revealed as we rewatch every moment with you.
Special guests from back in the day will be dropping by. You know who they are. Sydney, Allison, and Joe are back together on Still the Place with a trip down memory lane and back to Melrose Place. So listen to Still the Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, I'm Danny Shapiro, host of the hit podcast Family Secrets. How would you feel if when you met your biological father for the first time, he didn't even say hello? And how would you feel if your doctor advised you to keep your life-altering medical procedure a secret from everyone? And what if your past itself was a secret and the time had suddenly come to share that past with your child? These are just a few of the powerful and profound questions we'll be asking on our 11th season of Family Secrets. Some of you have been with us since season 1, and others are just tuning in. Whatever the case, and wherever you are, thank you for being part of our Family Secrets family, where every week we explore the secrets that are kept from us, the secrets we keep from others, and the secrets we keep from ourselves. Listen to season 11 of Family Secrets on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And now it's time for
the lightning round. All right. What's a winter expense that somehow always seems to surprise you? Jill?
Okay. For me, it's registration of our vehicles. I think that this happens at different times a year for everybody. It happens for us
because that's Eric's birthday.
Connected to Eric's birthday. Yeah. He was born on January 25th. So every January, I'm recovering from whatever the end of the year, beginning of the year did to our finances. Historically, and I do know this, January, we spend the most money on food, usually even more than December. I don't know what happens to us.
Well,
I don't know if we're tired.
It's colder. It's darker.
It's darker. We're tired. There's not as many parties happening where you can just bring all your potluck stuff. It's also around Eric's birthday, so we're celebrating a little bit more. I don't know, but that's happening, right? We're just going ham with the food. It probably, some of it is including
Literally
ham, if I'm
ham.
honest. Yeah. And then we get hit with these registration for our vehicles, and it just catches me by surprise every year. Of course, now that I'm saying it out loud, hopefully it won't catch me by surprise. I can remind myself ahead of time, put money aside for this. And the weird thing is, some of you who know me well might be like, Jill, NBD, you have one vehicle.
I was just like, tell them all the modes of transportation you really have, Jill. You let the people know. You be honest with them.
I know. The cat's going to come out of the bag right now. Okay. I am very proud that we only have one car.
Uh-huh.
However.
How else can you get around?
Oh, this is really tickling me. We also have 2 scooters. And I have talked about that on the podcast before. This is not a huge, but here we go. So we have 2 scooters. That's very fun and actually very helpful. There are plenty of times where I'm out in the car, Eric needs to go somewhere, and he can just take a scooter. Anywhere within St. Pete we can get to on the scooter.
You're dragging it out.
Just can't cross that bridge. Okay.
Dragging it out. What else you got?
We also have a boat. Now, before you get any ideas about what this boat looks like, it is a 4-seater center console fishing boat that cost very little money used. And we live right on the water. Not right on the water again. Don't get any ideas. We live close to water. I'm still your frugal friend.
You can live on the water and be a frugal friend.
Oh, absolutely.
You're justifying all of these things, but none of them are bad.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's just a very fun recreational vehicle that we have to pay registration for. And get this, you have to pay registration for the boat and boat trailer. So even though they are one entity parked on our property, the boat trailer is considered something separate because we're not paying to dock our boat. It's not constantly in the water. We drop it in, we pull it out. So registration for that. But wait, there's more.
Y'all didn't know. Y'all did not know.
We also have an enclosed trailer. Not an RV, just like a utility trailer that, oh man, we've had this thing for 10 years, maybe 8 years. It has helped us through every single renovation we've ever had. It's how we moved down to Florida.
It helped us move.
We fit everything we owned into this enclosed trailer and moved down to Florida and then kept it through our renovations, right? You got to pick up drywall and lumber and just furniture, all sorts of tools. So I think we bought it used for $1,000 8 years ago, and it has been worth 10, 20 times its weight in gold.
But then you also have to pay to register it every year.
And then we have to pay to register it every year. So yeah, we have one car, but we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of registration in the mail, and it just feels a little bit heartbreaking.
Feels a little much.
Yeah. So I got to remember that this year. When my mailbox just gets stuffed.
Yeah.
How about you, Jen?
I forgot everything I was going to say because I was so enthralled with all of your registrations because I knew all of them.
You were really ready for me to out myself.
I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, people don't realize she only has one car, but she's got a lot of things she got to register.
This property is full. We are filled up.
Okay, winter expense that somehow always seems to surprise me. Ooh, I don't get surprised because I just don't pay attention to my expenses. Just kidding. I don't. So maybe it's the here it is, the increase in taxes and insurance every February. And it's not something I can control, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have any other options for homeowners insurance. And this property no longer has a homestead exemption. It is our rental property. And so like the taxes are just astronomical. And every February, our mortgage goes up, our total mortgage, not the fixed payment. But so I'm never prepared for that.
Well, because you also never quite know how much it's going to increase.
And you can't control it. So
you can vote, but
yeah, which I did vote for the thing that increases the tax exemption with the increase in value of the property. So nice. I did make my voice heard in November.
Nice.
So we'll see how much the city overall suffers from that vote because it passed.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And that's one of the ones that I wish I would have known in home buying. I don't think it would have made much of a difference in my decision, but maybe just my expectations. I think we're sold this idea that you buy and then like, what your quote unquote like housing expenses are going to be. And if you rent, you're paying more every year over year. You're at the whim of your landlord. It's like, it's no different for homeowners. We are at the whim of our local government and insurance companies. Like that goes up and it, in essence, raises your annual amount that you pay for your housing.
Yeah.
And so, we bought our home for what would have been recommended solely based off of my salary. And now just 4 years later, we are at about that like 25% of our combined take home income is going towards, our housing expenses. It's just like, what can be done about that? So
Ramit has a good saying, and I don't know if he said it originally, but I heard it from him. He says, when you rent, your rent is the maximum you will pay. When you own, your mortgage is the minimum that you will pay. And it is a very good wake-up call, as housing is our number one monthly expense.
Yeah.
And if we are not responsible, it can go up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And
all the more reason to really buy a home extra within your means, not at the tippy top of your budget, because it will increase year over year.
And you hope that your income also increases over 30 years, but you don't want to count
always. And you also
it.
Want the flexibility to be able to choose to make less money. Like, I even at the rate that we bought our house at, I was able to do that. Take a pay cut to pursue the thing that I love doing, which is this, talking to all you beautiful people. So yeah, hope that jogs your memory on what winter holds for you all, and begin preparing, set your expectations, maybe find ways to trim a little if you are anticipating, that thing's coming due, so I can't spend as much on XYZ because I want to be ready. I want to be kind to my future self and your current self.
Yeah.
Thread that needle. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We really love being with you, and we love reading your reviews, like this one from Kate, which says, real budget talk that won't bore you to death.
Ooh.
5 stars. Listening to these fantastic ladies is entertaining, motivating, and educational. It seems like many budget podcasts and blogs are geared towards stay-at-home moms or just moms in general. And while that's not totally abandoned on this show, it's great to get some perspective from folks in a similar time of life. Maybe married a couple of years, no kids yet, killing that debt. I feel like they've really cornered budgeting for millennials. They'd really be beneficial for anybody. Even my husband likes them. Yay. Usually he's only tolerating the podcasts I play, but not with Frugal Friends. Thanks, ladies, for inspiring, self-deprecating humor and realness. Kate, what a lovely review. Thanks for taking the time.
Glad.
Yeah, for putting all those words to paper and saying such specific things. We really appreciate the time that you took to do that. It does help us and it encourages us, which is fun.
Yeah, we still like to have like our diverse opinions and different takes, even though slowly we are becoming the same person.
Yeah, we are.
Some of our opinions are still different. So tune in, because one day we're literally going to be saying the same thing at the same time. So get in now.
Well, the water's warm.
And if you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It helps new listeners know that their husband's going to like it and not tolerate it, or that it's not all about sitting in the car line in your minivan.
See you next time.
Even though some of it is.
See you next time.
Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Sirianni.
We got 5 minutes.
All right. What should we talk about?
Oh man, I want it to be something juicy. You know me.
I do know you. We didn't really dive into recording our audiobook, did we?
No, we didn't.
Okay. Well, we spent 2.5 days in a legit studio recording our audiobook.
Yeah, it was very fun. I got out of the house. I drove for potentially the first time in potentially 2 months.
I'm always telling Jill she needs to drive more because it's a skill. If you don't use it, you lose it. And in an emergency, you will really need it.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at me. Listen, I just hardly drive anymore. And it's becoming scarier and scarier.
I know. And you're scared of it. That's the problem.
I'm too young to be scared of driving. But I'm really leaning into my retirement era.
But it was my very first time recording anything like that in a legitimate studio.
Yeah.
Sitting on an uncomfortable bar stool.
It was not the most comfortable chair.
It was not comfortable at all.
Yeah, that would be my notes.
I think most of the recording they probably do is for TV and movies, and so it's people standing.
My butt hurt more than my voice did.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to
That's how you know we're podcasters and not glute enthusiasts.
Glute enthusiasts?
I don't know. Just like exercise gurus.
I had to use my hands a lot.
Same.
During the reading, which I do read ads with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, when we're talking podcasting wise, and I'm only
about to say you don't use your hands.
I'm only using my hands
them?
now because I'm talking about using my hands. When we're talking, I don't use my hands. So when we're recording the show, I'm very still.
Yeah.
It's only when I am recording an ad or reading an entire book out loud.
Well, and that's because you're reading literal word for word and wanting it to sound as natural as possible. So we don't need to use our hands when it's just you and I talking because we're not reading a script to have conversation with each other. But when you're reading something word for word, it really does feel like I need my hands for this to help me feel the realness of it, the authenticity of what was written here, so it doesn't just sound read.
Yeah.
You'll be able to tell still because there are no mistakes in our talking.
Yeah. We had two people in our ears listening for
3 if you
mistakes.
count me. Do I count? I was able to talk to you throughout it too.
Yeah, we were in different rooms, but there was a window so we could see each other. At first, Jill wasn't going to face the window. And I said, please look at me.
It's not the way that the chair was facing.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think to move furniture.
So yeah, there were 3 people in each of our ears. And if we said something dialect, like incorrectly, like regional dialect incorrect, aesthetic was a hard one.
And I think it's aesthetic.
Yeah.
Aesthetic.
You have to really say the aesthetic.
We could not get that one. That one took a while. And I really wish we hadn't used that word so many times in the book. It come up.
It makes
3 or 4
regret.
times in the book.
It made me regret some of the big words that I used in I think it was chapter 4, or it was the one where I used the more of the psychology terms, and I was reading that one and I was like, dang it. This is bad.
Including the names of all these different people. We're like, we don't know how to say. Oh, and that was for me. So the people that were in our ear was the engineer who was in the studio, and then our producer who was actually in New York City, given to us by assigned to us by the publisher. So the producer was more the one kind of checking our words and pronunciations, and the engineer was there kind of marking when we made mistakes so that they could go back and post and kind of do the different editing. Where was I going with this?
Words. Aesthetic.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Yeah. But it was just funny. Some of the, like, she kept giving like regional pronunciation like reasons that
the name, that's what it was. So the engineer we had to read we had to read the credits of the book, and so it was assigned to me that I would read engineered by and his name. So he's in the studio in our ears and has the wildest last name.
Somehow you got every single hard name in the credits and I got all of the easy names.
Yeah, his was the hardest. My mouth just couldn't do it. They'd say it, I'd hear it, I'd be like, yup, got it.
You were
and
reading
then
it.
I'd read it and I'd be like, ugh. So it was, I'll just say it. It was I'm still at Mockensturm. My voice wanted to keep saying Strum, Mockensturm. I couldn't get it through my thick little brain. It's Mockensturm. And I felt so bad because he's there.
He's the only one there.
Listening to me mess up his name royally, probably 6 to 8 times.
And at the end, you said it, and the producer was fine with it. And he was like, can you try it one more time?
Yeah. He's like, you got to do that one again, sweetheart. I was just like, I am so sorry, Dan. Can you leave the room for this? Because it's not happening, and I don't mean to be offensive, but we did fine. We did bond.
We both started crying during our acknowledgments.
Yeah.
Which they say the publisher literally was like, you can read this if you want, but it's recommended you don't read this in the audiobook.
We didn't know why they didn't want us to read it, but they did say author discretion. And I'm like, I want to read the acknowledgments.
Yeah.
Like, I want it to come from our voices.
I get paid per published hour of audio.
Right. So we get an extra $5. So Jen went first. And you started crying on like your first acknowledgement. I was like, oh,
first
boy,
line.
This is going to be rough. And I'm like, this isn't going to happen to me. I'm going to plow through this thing.
Went through talking about my dad dying.
Yeah.
And I powered through that with Jill.
I was crying, but I had to be quiet because I was still in the studio on the mic. So I couldn't make noises while you were talking. And I'm like, meanwhile, tears streaming down my face, trying not to sniffle because it's just such a heart-wrenching. Chapter 10 is so heart-wrenching, and you were so vulnerable.
It's like, if you don't read anything else, just read chapter 10. Like, and I'm not saying that just because I wrote it, but it is so powerful.
I think for it to be as powerful as it is, you do have to read the rest of the book. I think there is a journey that you take.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So no, I powered through that. And then I got to the first line of my acknowledgments. This was on the same day. And I lost it.
And then I'm like, that's not going to happen to me. And then I get like 3 acknowledgments down and I start crying.
I started tearing up too when you were. And I was like, I'm done though. So I'm like, fine.
Oh gosh. Oh, well, we have hearts, you know? It proves that we are people who have feelings.
People were wondering after the holiday anti-haul episode if we had hearts. But yeah. I hope that now people realize that we do. And the book is a lot of action steps, but also a lot of heart. It's a lot of both.
Yeah, it's a lot of both of us. Frugalfriendspodcast.com/book.
No, that's not it. It's buywhatyoulovebook.com. That's the resources page for the book. Oh my gosh, and we read that in the book.
Don't go to our resources page yet.
Yeah, don't go to it yet.
It's not established.
I haven't made it yet.
Buy what you love.
I might have. By the time this comes out, I might actually.
Maybe you should make that one for now be like a sales page. And then we'll change it. No.
Oh, that's smart. It might actually good. I might have actually done that.
Buywhatyoulovebook.com.
That definitely goes to the pre-orders page.
Oh my.
Hey guys, I'm Kate Max. You might know me from my popular online series, The Running Interview Show, where I run with celebrities, athletes, entrepreneurs, and more. After those runs, the conversations keep going. That's what my podcast, Post Run High, is all about. It's a chance to sit down with my guests and dive even deeper into their stories, their journeys, and the thoughts that arise once we've hit the pavement together. Listen to Post Run High on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The 2025 iHeart Podcast Awards are coming. This is the chance to nominate your podcast for the industry's biggest award. Submit your podcast for nomination now at iHeart.com/podcast awards. But hurry, submissions close on December 8th. Hey, you've been doing all that talking. It's time to get rewarded for it. Submit your podcast today at iHeart.com/podcast awards. That's iHeart.com/podcast awards.
Hey everyone, this is Courtney Thorne-Smith,
Laura Layton,
and Daphne Zuniga.
On July 8th, 1992, apartment buildings with pools were never quite the same as Melrose Place was introduced to the world.
We are going to be reliving every hookup, every scandal, and every single wig removal together.
So listen to Still the Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, I'm Danny Shapiro, host of the hit podcast Family Secrets. How would you feel if when you met your biological father for the first time, he didn't even say hello? And what if your past itself was a secret and the time had suddenly come to share that past with your child? These are just a few of the powerful and profound questions we'll be asking on our 11th season of Family Secrets. Listen to season 11 of Family Secrets on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Jenny Garth, Jana Kramer, Amy Robach, and TJ Holmes bring you I Do Part 2, a one-of-a-kind experiment in podcasting to help you find love again.
Hey, I'm Jana Kramer.
I'm Jenny Garth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Robach.
And I'm TJ Holmes, and we are, well, not necessarily relationship experts. If you're ready to dive back into the dating pool and find lasting love, we want to help.
Listen to I Do Part 2 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.